Tough one for Nebraska on Saturday. Had that 17-0 lead late third quarter. Let it slip away there against Colorado, as you saw. Ended up losing in overtime. We're joined now by Urban Meyer for his weekly visit from Columbus. And, Coach, this is a Nebraska team. So much hype around them coming into the year. Picked by many to win the West. Could still end up coming to pass, but that's a tough pill to swallow, letting a game slip away like that. How do you bounce back when you lose a heartbreaker in that way early in the year?
That was a terrible loss, and I was one of the guys that thought Nebraska, and I still think they can. They got very good players. I still love their quarterback. He hasn't found his rhythm yet this year. The way they finished the season last year with the momentum, I think they got good staff, good players. We lost early in 2014 in a terrible loss to Virginia Tech, and boy, you just gotta rally the troops. This is where Coach Frost and that staff and the leaders on the team got to earn their stripes and keep swinging. That was a bad loss and on the road, but you know what? There's a lot of football left, and most important games are yet to come. That's a non-conference game, so I still got confidence they'll get that thing going.
Coach, when your team gets off to a fast start and puts up a lot of points, similar to what Maryland has been able to do the past couple of weeks, how do you manage the team and also, to a lesser extent, manage the staff when you really haven't been tested?
Well, that's when I've always been the hardest on staffs and players. And Lou Holtz used to say it best: is you make a mistake when you jump all over a team when they lose. That's when your team's fragile. For example, Nebraska is a very fragile team right now. They lost they're winning by 2.5 scores and they lose. Right now you take a Maryland team and, the way I would do it, I would be very hard on them in practice and, try to de-recruit them, as you say, and because everyone's telling how good they are. And, they played a ranked Syracuse team and did good, but they got a long way to go.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we get into the season and there's so much excitement, there's so much talking time where you kind of build up to the year and anticipate what might happen. And then we get these results 1 or 2 weeks in, 2 weeks in, obviously, as we are now, and you want to extrapolate so much stuff. You guys are talking about Maryland there. I mean, eye-popping statistics. So how do you separate a couple weeks in the meaningful, eye-popping statistics from the ones that perhaps don't mean as much?
Well, all due respect to the media and everything, you pay zero attention. You just, the coaches go in on
You're
Sunday.
You're a part of the media now, Coach.
Yeah, I'm an analyst, I guess. But what you don't, that has zero bearing on the way you, whether you rush for a lot of yards, pass for a lot of yards. You're still trying to, it's early in the season, you're still trying to finalize lineups and depth charts and schemes that work and don't work. They're realistic. I'm sure Mike Locksley, they played 2 teams that, how good are they? Who knows? We'll see how good Syracuse is throughout the year. But eye-popping statistics mean very little. They just going to, like I said, you asked me how I would do it, and I've done it before, is very, very hard, very demanding to practice because the games are relatively easy.
What are your thoughts on early season Big Ten matchups? We had Rutgers last week in Iowa. This week we've got Ohio State and Indiana. Does that help a team prepare for the season?
Well, what I always done is if we play a team that we're sincerely overmatched, you can tell you're way overmatched and you have much more talented teams you're playing. I wouldn't tell the staff that, but my strength coach or Coach Marotti, I would really scale back on contact in practice. And I would almost use, as you're getting to the first game, if it's a game that you're just that much dominant, then I would use that almost like a scrimmage. I would use that and want to get those guys. That'd be their live tackling reps with so much safety for the players at the forefront. You don't want to, if you're playing some easy teams early, you don't want to do too much during training camp. However, when you open up like at Indiana where you can't lose and it's just one of those, it's Oklahoma, a service academy. I mean, you got to jump all in. And I always use that second scrimmage as a game-like scrimmage if I was playing a league game or a tough game. If you had really easier games, then I would use one of those games. So I would just try to, once again, just taking all that player safety in consideration, how many shots we're going to put on them before they play that first game. But playing a league game, you got to let it ride.
You mentioned the league game where you guys opened at Indiana. We saw Northwestern and Purdue open with one another last year. We had Iowa, Rutgers in week 2. We got a conference game this week as well with Ohio State and Indiana. 3 conference games to start next season. Do you like this trend? This is something that is reasonably new in the Big Ten, this notion of having conference games early in the season. Where do you stand on it?
I do. I think it's good for television. I think it's good for the fans, and you're in it. You know, the urgency of get going. You know, for many years you're used to just playing 3 preseason games, and you know, I think fans want to see it. As a matter of fact, I know fans want to see it. They want to fill the stadiums, and you do that by playing conference games. So the urgency really have to be there during training camp, because when they show up, man, you got to be ready.
Well, we mentioned that game coming up this weekend with Ohio State and Indiana, lone conference game on the slate. Indiana's given the Buckeyes some really good games here of late, Coach, with Ohio State figuring out a way to win, as you're well aware. How do you size up this matchup?
Well, we've had battles with Indiana over the years, and even when, you know, we were favorites, you know, prohibitive favorites, and, you know, especially going there. You know, it's not an easy place to play. Indiana's got very good players in certain positions. They could certainly play at Ohio State. And, you know, the one thing is, it's not disrespect, because I can tell you Ohio State respects Indiana because of the way they play us. It's every year. And I saw Coach Madison earlier today, and we were talking about when they played the team up north, they also played them extremely well. So Indiana gives you fits. They have good players. They have good coaches. That's something you better be ready for.
Fox analyst Urban Meyer, of course, a member of our team on BTN here as well this year. Coach, thanks a lot. We'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Thank you.